Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee for Tuesday, March 5th. Any conflicts of interest that anyone would like to? Conflicts of interest? No. Okay, we'll move on to number 3, citizens' comments. Citizens' comments, seeing none. Number 4, consent agenda. Minutes of February 2024 meeting, bills and payroll, monthly position control report, and report of personnel actions. I'm looking for a motion to approve that. Is that a motion? Motion by Ed, or a second? Second by Andrew. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Okay, there were no items removed, so we're going to skip over number 5. Number 6, request to recommend council approval of budget resolution number 06-2024, accepting donations and grants toward Brain Park Pickleball Project, presented by Justin Casperson, Parks and Rec Director. Justin, go ahead.
Thank you and good evening. The purpose of my memo and me in front of you tonight is to seek approval of budget resolution number 06-2024, accepting donations toward the Brain Park Pickleball Project. As you guys are aware of, there's the pickleball project going on at Brain Park. We have a number of people out in the community doing private fundraising, and bids were accepted by the Board of Public Works last night from Marwood Construction for $508,475.83. The pickleball group wants to donate $400,000 towards that project to kind of make it whole. The city committed $150,000 towards the project in 2023 and received 2 grants, one for $25,000 from Wood County, as well as a $10,000 grant from the Community Foundation. The $400,000 from the private group is currently at the foundation, and we would just invoice them as our bills come in to receive them. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the people that have went out into the community, into the businesses and various groups to ask for money and receive those donations, as well as the generous people who gave to the project. So tonight I'm looking for approval of budget resolution number 06-2024, accepting $400,000 in donation toward the Brain Park Pickleball Project.
Thank you, Justin. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve to accept this donation and the budget resolution.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Andrew. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Seeing none. Number 7, request to recommend council approval of resolution number 2024-13, writing off certain EMS accounts deemed to be uncollectible, presented by Sarah. Jennifer, why did I call you Sarah? Just never mind that. You guys are always sitting right next to each other. I'm going to apologize for that momentary lapse there.
All good. Good evening. Last year, for the first time, we made an adjustment to our allowance for uncollectible accounts for our EMS fund. That was a catch-up entry for years 2018 through 2022 of such ambulance billings that were, in our estimation, deemed to be uncollectible throughout their lifetime. EMS billings have about a 6-year life, and then they are required to be written off by statutes. And so this year we are adding in to our allowance the final layer since we began our relationship with our outside vendor for billing and collections. That is accounting for about $147,000 of the $250,000 that we are requesting to be approved. The rest of that is deemed uncollectible. $97,000 approximately is out of statutory collection allowability. About 4,000 individuals or bills were generated by deceased individuals. And then we had just a small amount of $590 that will be written off due to an account settlement. So all told, we're asking for approval of the resolution to write off $250,854.56 of uncollectible EMS accounts.
All right, thank you. Do you have a motion A motion by Ed, is there a second? Second by Natasha. Any questions from the committee? Natasha?
I just want to clarify. So last year, how much did we write off? Do you remember?
Last year in total, it was $953,928.94. And a big chunk of that, I believe $889,000 was due to that catch up of all the prior year's billings from 2018 that we've estimated will never ever be collected. So we did a huge catch up entry last year. And now we're in that sixth year of that 6-year allowability of collection. So a big portion of this amount is for adding in that 2023 accounts that went into the bad debt status in 2023 that will ultimately never be collected over the next allowable 6-year.
And I think I remember, we're starting to budget for this, is that correct?
We are.
Okay, so was this amount what we budgeted for?
No, what we budgeted was primarily for the addition of that layer. I think it was 147 was budgeted and the layer addition was 149. So the excess of that due to those accounts that were actually written off, which is about another 101,000, was not in the bad debt expense budget.
Okay, and that will come out of then our contingency or?
This is in the 605 fund.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So as of right now, the total expenses, including this one, they're still under budget. With the caveat is we have one more accounting entry that we won't be able to book for another month that I'm not sure what it will do to the account. But at this point, the fund is under budget as far as expenditures are concerned.
Thank you.
Ed, did you have a question?
Andrew.
That answered yours. Okay. Andrew, any questions? No. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Number 8, request to recommend council approval of a 1-year extension of the current lease for space at the 2nd Street Community Center for Marshfield Job Center, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you.
Administrator Barg, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much. Just a brief recap for how we got here for those of you who might be newer, but we've had a long-standing relationship with the Job Center, whereas we have partnered with the North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board and the State Department of Workforce Development to provide that Job Center here for job seekers and people looking for employees to kind of connect. That goes back to way back when we were in the old building across the street there, and it's been a very positive relationship. In recent times, over the last few years, since we built the 2nd Street Community Center, I should say remodeled the former library into the 2nd Street Community Center, we have had them in that facility. It's been a very good thing for both parties. They're renting about 650 square feet of space in that building. And the city pays and has historically paid about 3/4 of the cost of the part-time staff person who staffs the Job Center 18 hours a week, 3 days a week for 6 hours a day. But also we get rent from them. They pay a lease revenue. Right now it's a little bit short of $700, but very close per month. Plus they also pay $50 toward cleaning fees, which they contract with us for the service that we provide for them as well as the building. So it's been very positive. The lease expires on March 31st, so in just 3.5 weeks. And there's been discussion with Jane Spencer, their executive director, about possibly looking at other ideas for where the Job Center could be located. Based upon the limited traffic that they have at times. We've talked about some other ideas. But in order to see whether there's a possibility to do that, we need some time. So the proposal before you tonight is to extend the current lease for 1 year through March 31st of 2025. Same terms, including the annual CPI adjustment, meaning beginning April 1st, they would pay $708.59 per month. Staff finds this to be very acceptable and appropriate, and we would recommend that the committee recommend council approval of a 1-year extension to the current lease with North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board.
All right, thank you, Steve. So we are looking for a motion.
Yeah, I think the motion to approve the rent as presented to us.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Andrew, second. Any questions? Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the complaints that we've had, as you know, I served on the Workforce Development Board for a long time. One of the complaints that we had about that office, although it's served us well, I'm not angry about that, is that the visibility isn't all that good. And for people who are looking for it, have a hard time finding it. So I'm glad to hear they're looking for another place, but I'm also happy that the good relationship and the good words between the two organizations is still there. So thank you for that.
Thank you, and I think that's a good point. I mean, there may be a more suitable location for all parties, and again, it takes a little while to explore that.
Are there any other questions? With that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Pass. Number 9, request to refill vacant equipment operator 1 position for the streets department, presented by Sarah. Sarah's online.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight, Tim Rasmussen did place a memo in the packet. This is regarding the resignation of Josh Zimmerman, who is currently an EEO or an EO1 operator for the street department. His last day is going to be Friday, March 8th. Tim did a great job of walking through kind of the needs of the department and why this position is being requested to be refilled. I do believe that he is in attendance at the meeting tonight. So at this time, for any questions, so at this time, staff does recommend the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee authorize advertising and filling of the Equipment Operator 1 position.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the filling of this position.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Andrew. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Seeing none? There you go. Head and refill. 10, response to request made by Alderperson Tompkins regarding staffing turnover. And this is also presented by Sarah. Sarah, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to attempt to share my screen, so let me know if you guys will end up seeing this here. Can everybody see?
Yes.
Perfect. So, as I explained last meeting, there was a kind of a lot of data to go through and kind of how to really present this in a manner that would make sense to kind of anybody that is looking at it. So just a couple of things to start with. This is just 2023 data. 2024 data, what I'm going to do is each month I'm going to place that into the Finance, Budget, and Personnel so that we can see this on a monthly basis, and then I'll wrap it up quarterly, and then I'll wrap it up yearly. So just looking at 2023, we had, at the start of 2023, we had 218 employees. Now, this does not include seasonals, and it also does not include our temporary part-time employees that kind of are intentionally not going to be permanently our employees. So the 218, it does not match, obviously, our FTE count, which it shouldn't, because some people only work half-time and things like that. So overall number of actual employees, 218. At the end of 2023, we had 211 employees. So the total number of terminations in 2023 was 21. The total number of hires in 2023 was 14. And the next box down kind of gives you an overall listing of the department and the reason for each termination. And I basically took out names just to kind of keep it clean. So as you can see in the first pie chart, there really were 4 basic reasons why people left in 2023. Moved out of the area, they found other employment, personal reasons, or they retired. It was almost 50-50 between retiring and other employment. And we just had 2 people that moved out of the area and 1 that left for personal reasons. As you can see, unfortunately, the largest turnover in 2023 was within the library. And for their department, you can kind of see the breakout in that next box down. So overall, turnover rate, what I did is you take the 21 total terminations and you divide that by the average number of employees, which takes the starting amount and the ending amount, and then you divide that by 2 just to get your average. So overall, we had about a 9.79% turnover rate in total for 2023. So kind of like when I was in the private sector especially, we kind of used 10% as kind of our litmus test a little bit. So essentially, employee retention rates that are at least 90% or higher are considered to be good, and an organization tends to try to stick to that 10% just to keep their labor force stable. Nationally, however, turnover rate in local governments are typically around 15%, and some are closer to 20% in more of those rural areas. So I just wanted to put those on there for reference. So overall, while obviously we don't want to see turnover, overall our turnover rate is fairly good for a municipality. So definitely let me know if you have any questions, and I'll definitely be looking again to just keeping this up so that we have this information moving forward. And I thank Natasha for bringing it up and getting us going on this information.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, there's no action on that. Is there any questions? Go ahead, Natasha.
Thank you, Sarah, for putting that together. I am wondering, and so that's great to know that we're at that 10% as a city. That's really good data. I'm wondering if what your thoughts would be when you see a certain department that might have a sort of unusually high turnover rate in 1 year. So I would say the library and maybe even the street department, they seem to be the 2 biggest ones. Have there been any thoughts about what you as a human resources director might want to do to help? If is that a red flag for that department, things like that?
I think for the library, a lot of their positions are going to be part-time. I think 2 of the individuals that left last year were part-time employees. And then of the rest, it was kind of a variety of reasons. I think if we're consistently seeing like a specific reason for individuals leaving a department, I think it's always good to kind of take a deep dive into that. For the street department, for example, 2 of the employees retired and 2 of the employees left for other employment. So I believe that's what I've got here, yeah. So it's kind of 50-50. It's kind of tough because when you do the calculations against how many employees they have, it sometimes it can like throw it as being higher. I think part of the library with their turnover, I think they are probably correcting a few things with the increase in wages that they have had this year. I think depending on how things go for us this year with the compensation study and any changes we might have. I mean, I always think that sometimes if you're seeing like a high amount of people leaving for other employment, I would say generally speaking, they're leaving for another employment either because of benefits, wages, or both. So I think we're taking the right steps. I think what we're doing is we're always trying to do those exit interviews. In those exit interviews, what I'm trying to do is I try and do it as close to their end date as possible. And I always share with them that what we do with that information is typically we round that up. So I'm looking for any themes, any issues. I always encourage them to provide any information that they possibly can. So I think overall, we're trying really hard to just make sure that if someone is leaving, that we're understanding as best as we can why they're leaving, and then definitely trying to take advantage of any opportunities to make changes or adjustments to things like that. So I'll be interested to see kind of how 2024 goes. Over nationally, kind of when I was doing some research, during COVID, municipalities, especially local municipalities, they were really struggling. A lot of jobs were reduced during that time. There has been some movement to gain some jobs back, but the problem is that there's some positions within local governments that are very difficult to fill. I think, let's see, I have it here. Engineering, planning, inspecting, those were the top ones that were issues. But also there's a lot of movement between individuals, like within our street department, for example, where they're moving into the private sector. So we're kind of taking a look at all of those things. No one department or anything like that necessarily jumped out at me when I really kind of dug into kind of the reasons why people are leaving. I didn't see a major theme, and I looked at exit interviews that I had completed. And there wasn't any one specific thing aside from sometimes a theme of wages or maybe some benefit comments. But overall, I think this will be a good thing for us just to kind of keep on our radar. I think we're going to continue to do the right thing to try and get as much information as possible.
Thank you so much.
Ed, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah. Okay, with this, the one that we authorized replacement of last, just a little while ago, just, 15 minutes ago, maybe. He was there less than a year. Do you have any, from the exit interview, can you share with us any reason why somebody that's with us less than a year would want to get out? Or why he did specifically?
I haven't yet done his exit interview, but I think Tim might be, I don't know if he's there, but he might be available to answer preliminarily.
So the recent exit of Josh was to go to another county department nearby.
How nearby?
Clark County. So the Clark County Highway Department.
Oh, Clark County. Okay. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. So other than Josh, that's where he went to. I guess, was there another part of that question?
Well, would you know the reason that he left?
Wages. Well, it was the explanation he gave to me. Doing similar tasks as we are. Unfortunately, we couldn't compete with the wages he was offered there.
How, maybe Sarah knows this too. How do we rate? And I know that the salary for the truck drivers and equipment operators was a big issue for us a year or so ago. I mean, we had to tackle that. We thought we had. Do you have any feel for where we are with that being competitive in that wage?
Definitely, this was one that Milena has identified as one that will need to make movements. So I think when the official information comes out on the wage study, you'll see that there is significant competition within the street department in general. So that's where I think some adjustments will need to be made. I agree with you. I think at the time whenever we're making these adjustments, I think we're thinking we're kind of making a big enough leap, but unfortunately other areas are just making bigger leaps. So we're still lagging behind in the street department.
And just as a record, just for the record, I know the certain departments are trying to get very aggressive in recruiting with money, so you may lose some more.
Yeah.
But we'll see what we can do about that. Thank you.
Andrew, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I had a couple here. One more of a comment here, and take it for hearsay, which is what it is. I was talking to one of the people from the library who left, and her comment was that the library system, if you want to call it that, throughout Wisconsin had a lot of upheaval. So we were not the only library who had a lot of turnover. So it sounds like this is something that happened across the state. So if that's any consolation, that's probably, some consolation. Sarah, how large is what is our total staff of the library right now?
Ooh, I actually am not sure. I might be able to pull up. I had a report. I can send that to you. I'm not sure overall what their exact total is right now, because they do have some temporary employees too that they have that are like pages or things like that. And I know the report I pulled those out for the turnover purposes, but I can send that to you.
Right. No, and I guess along with that, it's kind of a hand-in-hand, more of a comment/question. I don't need an answer right now or even a follow-up, but to a certain degree, we were looking at that graph that they had as far as the turnover goes. Obviously the library stands out, but if that's half of their entire staff, that's a huge problem. If that's a fifth of it, much less of a problem. So it helps to kind of put that in perspective a little bit. And on the same token about putting it into perspective, looking at just 2023's turnover rate is fine, but looking at 22s and 21s as well, we'll kind of put it more in perspective, because there are some positions that are just going to have turnover, period. And turnover is not necessarily a bad thing. Like you pointed out, 90% is good, and we're in that good range, and getting new blood in is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. You get new ideas. But it's one of those things where, okay, do we struggle with one department? Do we struggle one year more than others? It helps us kind of illuminate what's going on, and so if we need to address it, or if we need to just look at it as, okay, this is a one-time blip, we overcame it, and now we can keep on moving forward. So just a comment that going forward, it might be good to compare that with previous years, just to get a little bit better taste of where, in this case, 23 is comparative to previous 2 years. And then the same with, kind of the department size too, because we lose 10 people in the street departments be different than 10 people in IT. So
you got
anyway,
it.
I'm off my soapbox. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anybody think of anything else? Okay. So number 11, suggested items for future agendas. Steve?
Thank you, Rebecca. And I do apologize again for the fact that we were not able to meet earlier today to go over the responses to the RFQ for temporary economic development services. I sent out information to you guys, over a week ago, and somehow failed to post a notice that's required, since we would have been gathering and we would have had multiple elected officials there. So I'm looking at some possible dates to run by you, hoping we can nail one down for next week. And looking at the staff calendars of those who would participate, it looks like the late afternoon of either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday would be possible. Is it possible for people to weigh in as to whether any of those days look better?
What are the calendar dates again?
Monday the 11th, Tuesday the 12th, or Wednesday the 13th. Tuesday the 12th is a council night. What I would want to do is to leave a little gap between this meeting, certainly in the council, for people to get supper and whatnot. I'm really thinking maybe 3:30 would be the time on each of those days, but that can be tweaked if you desire. I'm just looking for a date to nail down.
The 11th?
I'm available the 12th or the 14th.
I said the 11th, 12th, or 13th.
Oh, sorry.
So the 12th works best for you?
11 and 12 are good for me.
Yeah, 11 and 12 is fine.
Others?
I'll be attending virtually, so
okay.
The 12th would be a good day for me.
Okay. Andrew?
11, 13 are best. 12, I can probably make work. There's just a small chance I'm stuck in court, but more than likely I should be free on that Tuesday as well.
Okay. We'll take a shot for that then, okay, and I'll send something out, we'll get it posted, and we'll look at, I'll check with Brian too, but we'll look at Tuesday, the 12th in the late afternoon, probably at 3:30, and Andrew, if you can't make it, I understand. It's hard to get a date that works for everybody the best.
That operation.
Of course, understand.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, are there any other items for future agendas? With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ed, second by Andrew. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.